Hi everybody, this is Rayven Michaels, and I wanted to revisit how everyone is psychic. And this time in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about how we are psychic. The way we use psychic abilities in our day-to-day life that we do unconsciously and hadn't really put the label psychic on it. If any label that we've put on it at all, we probably labeled it intuition or intuitive, but that is a form of being psychic. As infants, you have to realize that they're little babies and they can only be wherever you put them. And so I strongly believe that because they're immobile and they can't move and you know, try to get away to escape or anything, that they have a heightened sense of awareness. That's why they'll cry when some people try to be around them and they're just kind of like, no, I don't like this person, you know. And sometimes it can be physical things that scare a baby, but sometimes it is the energy around the person, and the baby just doesn't want anything to do with this person. And so we hear a lot. You'll hear you can judge a person by the reaction of babies and dogs, or dogs and children. And that's very true, because they're very instinctive and natural, and they interact with the energy of that person without knowing anything else about this person. A dog will decide whether they like them. A child will decide whether they like them. And this is true from infants all the way up to pretty good sized kids. There is naivety about children after a certain point, and they can get duped and confused. Once they get old enough to start having cognitive skills, people can work against a child's intuition, and sometimes children will close it off because they're not in as strong a need of it once they learn language and mobility as they were when they were more helpless in an infant state. As we get older, I know almost everybody out there is going to identify with this experience. You're sitting somewhere and all of a sudden you feel someone like you're being watched. What is that? How can you feel watched? How can watching something have a feeling? But you feel it. And you look up and sure enough, there's somebody across the way staring at you, and you're like, that's creepy. Or maybe it's a hot guy or a gorgeous girl and you think, woo, hello there, baby. But, you know, but think about that. You know, you've probably told a story. You know, I was going along and suddenly I felt like I was being watched, and it was just kind of like, it was creepy. So watching, the eyes can't, you know, you can't have a feeling. I mean, you wouldn't think watching had a feeling. So that is you sensing energies. You're sensing that energy is being focused on you. And this person, maybe intentionally or not realizing, whenever they focus on something, they send out like this energy tap that comes and interacts with, because they're not only looking at it with their eyes, they do it with energy also. Now sometimes we're sitting in a room and suddenly we feel like there's somebody there and we didn't hear them, and it startles us and we're like, oh. And then you look and maybe it's just a family member, maybe your pet has quietly moved in, but somehow you just suddenly sensed that this other being was in the room. Now if you're really sensitive, and you'll hear that word, an intuitive, a sensitive, and it just means that they do these things naturally, and they don't necessarily, they haven't expanded to embrace the full-blown word of psychic and other abilities that goes along under the umbrella of being psychic. But people will sense something being in a room with them, and they look around and there's nothing there, and that's very disconcerting. and they're just kind of like, it creeped me out because I just really felt like there was something there and it was watching me. And then you start getting like all goosebumps and like, oh, this room is haunted, and you want to just jump up and run out of the room. The funny thing is, anything that's out there that's spirit and energy, on the energy level, that's pure energy and doesn't have a physical body, it's there all the time. It's there all the time. Sometimes we might be in a receptive state, more relaxed or whatever, or the energy might be strong enough that we become conscious of it. And because it's something that isn't normal, what we're used to, it isn't a body, then it panics us, and this makes us feel vulnerable, frightened. But that is a psychic ability. Now, other ways that people will experience unconscious psychic abilities is maybe you wake up and you just have this foreboding, and you can't explain it, but you just feel like something's wrong somewhere, and you don't have a reason to feel like that you can think of. And you go along, and sometime during the day you get a phone call from somebody that you know, and they start telling you this horrible thing that's happened. Either, they hurt themselves, somebody you both know is in the hospital, there's been an accident, there's been a death, any number of things, just some kind of catastrophe, and you sensed it somehow. And you think, oh wow, I kept feeling like there was something wrong, and you think, why did I feel that? Because we have energetic bonds with the people that we interact with in our lives. It's like an attachment. We have an emotional attachment and we have an energetic attachment. So it's not uncommon for us to sense and to know that emotional things or significant things is going on with this other person without even being around to know the circumstances of what is happening. We just sense. And maybe suddenly, you get up one day and you think of somebody and think, I need to call them. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I need to call them. And you go and call them and you find out, oh, they're so glad to hear you. They have something on their mind or something's going on in their life and they just need to burble. And sometimes you think of someone and they'll just kind of pass through your mind, and then a little bit later you'll either see them or they'll call you. And you'll think, I was just thinking of you today. This is just too weird. You never thought about that as being a psychic experience, but it is. All of those things that I've listed so far are psychic experiences. An interesting thing to practice, if you're able to, and I know there's lots of places in Facebook where you can do it, is to look at photographs and then give feedback about what you get off of a photograph of looking at a person, just as any and everything that comes to mind. And you'll be surprised at how many things that you get, and things that you would never guess looking at the picture. I mean, like right now, looking at me, would you get whether or not I smoked? I don't. But I have looked at pictures before and saw nothing smoking related in the picture and thought, that person smokes cigars and really enjoys cigars and enjoys a cigar with a drink. And so you think, should I say that? And so you say it, and I think, yes, after dinner every night, that's what he did, So, and you think, where did I get that? You get this sort of stuff, and you do it all the time. So yes, you are psychic. Start paying attention, and you will be amazed at how much psychic abilities play in your day-to-day life when you weren't paying attention. That it's there, and now that you're noticing, you're on the first step to expanding and learning to use your psychic skills when you want to put your focus to it and do it on purpose. So I hope this was helpful, and this is Rayven Michaels, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.